Locomotives in the world that we live in today are very unique and they're very rare. You can actually see quite a lot of steam locomotives in our world, but you can't see anything like this. I'm Ed Dickens, Manager of Heritage Equipment, Union Pacific Railroad. When you come into a community, the word gets out that the world's largest big boy is coming to town. A lot of people get swept into the nostalgia back in the days when more powerful than a speeding locomotive. I always remember that when I think about how they relate to a steam locomotive and how magical it is. They can physically see everything. When the locomotive gets close to them, they can feel this 1.2 million pound behemoth locomotive as it's moving along the track. When they hear that whistle blow, they can actually feel it in their lungs, feel it in their hair. I mean, it's just an incredible experience for everybody. We go through the beautiful farmlands and getting into some of the trees and the cool air blowing and rivers and bridges. And although it will be tremendously hot, there's a wonderful beauty about that part of America. The railroads were built very early on. So most of the development that we've experienced now has been post-railroad construction. So we get to take a very direct route in most cases. It's something that refreshes your soul. Out of the peripheral vision, you can actually see certain parts of the locomotive. That's why you're sticking your head out the window. You're monitoring the combustion of the fuel, you're monitoring your operation of the engine. Various parts are actually smoking. They are so hot, there's actually smoke coming off of parts. The underside of the firebox, as we operate, the grease is coming off and sticking to the underside of a 600-degree plate of metal, and it begins to smoke. And you're taking all of those sensations in as you're running that locomotive. It all connects for a real fascinating, once-in-a-lifetime experience for us. We remind people that railroads are very important. They've always been. And they remain to be very critical, very, very important in our lives today. As we go through our modern lives with all the modern conveniences, the internet and the air-conditioned cars and our air travel and highway systems, the railroads, people almost forget about them. But if you watch a train go by, you imagine that everything in your life, every part of your clothing, all of your automobile, all of your home and all the building materials, every bit of that comes in one form or another, is touched by the railroad, usually in a very big way. So the steam locomotive was the 1940s version of moving those trains. We want them to recognize the history and the heritage of the Union Pacific Railroad, a very, very important connection that goes back to the Abraham Lincoln presidency, a very important part in our nation's history when the nation was divided and we needed a way. The president recognized they needed a way to connect the nation, and they did it with the Pacific Railway Act, and the Union Pacific Railroad was a very strategic part of that effort and continues to be today.